Hello and welcome to another episode of Radio Gagan, where today I'm joined by Gagan Mohindra. Gagan, how are you?
Really well, Ollie.
Good. So since we last spoke, you've obviously done quite a bit. We've had parliamentary recess, but that's not to say that you haven't been busy. Are you able to tell us a bit about what you've been doing in the last few weeks?
Yeah, so I think what I'll explain is what recess means. So the way I describe it is at term time, I'm in Parliament Monday to Thursday helping to create law, but on Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday mornings I'm in the constituency. So when we say recess, it's when we're not coming physically into Westminster, but I still do the constituency stuff because the inbox still gets correspondence through. We still are out and about speaking to businesses and having surgeries and the like. The main highlight of my most recent recess was I was part of a delegation that went to Bahrain. There's something called the Interparliamentary Union. So they have a assembly every 6 months. So this one was in Bahrain. There was 1,300 politicians from around the world, and I was part of the UK delegation. It's cross-party. There was 4 MPs and a couple of members of the House of Lords, plus staff from the IPU to help support us. And it was really, really interesting for me, because it's my first multilateral, to see how well regarded UK parliamentarians are. The Western world and our allies do look to us to get a steer on what they should be doing. While we won't dominate those conversations, our views do matter.
Brilliant. So you mentioned that you've been out in the constituency during recess as well. Obviously you've got the local elections coming up. Have you been able to have a chance to be out with the candidates, knocking on doors, things like that?
Absolutely. So as I'm sure the listeners would know, before I became an MP I was a councillor for many, many years over in Essex, and the area that I represented had elections every May. So I'm used to going out on the doorsteps in April, May, and even probably earlier, February onwards, to speak to residents, to find out what the issues that matter to them. While it's not my own personal election, I do want Conservatives to be represented at all levels. So I've been out on the stump, I'll be out on the stump both days this weekend as well.
So you touched that you used to be a county councillor. I think it might be quite interesting for the listeners to know what sort of is your background, what did you do before politics? Because we obviously see you on your social media channels out and about as the MP, but I think a lot of people would be interested to know what did you do beforehand?
So I was not politically active at school or university. I got involved in politics in my early to mid-20s. It's when my brother started getting involved. So we had a family discussion and I thought, actually, this sounds a bit interesting. My brothers and I joined the Conservative Party on the same day, and we had a senior local activist come round and just had a chat with us. At that time, I didn't know how active I wanted to be, so I didn't commit myself to anything. But a year later, I thought, let me try elected politics. So I got elected as a parish councillor back in 2004. A position I held for 13 years. And the parish council, we've got some in South Hearts. Parish and town councils are the lowest rung of local government. So at the time, it ended up being one meeting every fortnight for a couple of hours in the evening. So not much in the way of time commitment, but it was just my way of keeping in touch about what's going on locally. We would regularly speak about planning applications. And I thought 2 years later I had the opportunity to stand for the district council, which is the mid-tier. So we've got Decorum and Three Rivers in South West Hearts. Most residents will know those as the planning authority or the authority that picks up the rubbish bins. And I got elected onto that in 2006, and I ended up doing that for 15 years, a bit longer because of the pandemic. And then over that time frame I took on more positions of responsibility. I was the finance lead, property lead, economic development lead at various points. But since 2004, I sat on the planning committee. My most recent position before I became an MP was chairman of planning on Epping Forest District Council. So 2017 got elected onto County Council, which is the upper tier, which is responsible for education, social services and roads predominantly. So I've had a wealth of local government experience, but I always make it clear I don't intend to be a super councillor, because I was always conscious when I was a councillor, it wasn't always helpful where the local elected representative of whatever level got involved in what was actually purview of that particular authority. So I'm more than happy to support anyone, irrespective of politics, if they think they're doing the right thing for their community. And actually, I will also call out their bad behaviour where people are sticking their head in the sand, blaming others for what is actually their responsibility. Day job wise, and this is, most of my political career has been in parallel to a day job. Went to University of London, was lucky enough to have a job in the city for a couple of years.
What did you study at uni?
Mathematics.
Okay.
Mathematics in London Uni. A couple of years in the city, and then I joined the family financial retail business.
Right.
We expanded that out, did some online stuff, started doing property. In about 2005/6, realised property was just easier, so we refocused the business on that. I stepped away fully from the business in 2015, beginning of 2015, to concentrate on politics. But that business is still being run by my brothers out of in London. So I've been involved in politics a long time, and I always say to people I've learned more from my failures than my successes. I still pinch myself saying, well, the Palace of Westminster is where I work. I do suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome, so whenever I'm on the green benches, especially when I'm getting up to speak, I do get nervous, but I think that's healthy. So while hopefully residents will see me coming across as confident, there is still butterflies.
Yeah, of course.
Because my personal view is that once you take this place for granted, and we are speaking from Westminster today, I think that's the time to move on.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to outgrow this place. I work in a falling apart museum, and it's the best location in the world.
Yeah.
Ollie, we've spoken about this before, where you come out of Westminster Tube Station, you look up and you see Big Ben, and you say, that's where I work. That is really, really cool.
Yeah, so you obviously say that yourself and your brother got involved in politics. Did you become from a particular political background with your family, or was it something that, was there a particular moment where you thought politics is the route I want to pursue? So
in terms of which party did we decide to back, and this is the initial conversation we had back in 2002, we did the pros and cons. I'm second generation Indian by heritage, and when my parents' generation came to the United Kingdom, it was more the Labour Party that opened up their arms to immigrants of non-white persuasion. So, but actually, in terms of my values and our background, which is pro-business, free marketeer, small taxes, that very much more aligned with the Conservative Party. Now, politics and political parties are always going to be a broad church, so anyone that says they agree with every single policy within a Conservative any manifesto, I would query. But I'm very much a Conservative, always have been, and the more I've been involved in politics, the more I am definitely a Conservative.
So if there's someone who comes up and speaks to you and say, we have work experience people come in the office, and the whole purpose of that is for them to get a feel of the place, they might be interested in coming into politics, what would your advice be to someone who's thinking, I'm considering going into politics, how do I get into it?
So I'm going to be apolitical here. I always am when I speak to, I've got one of my biggest honours is speaking to school kids about politics. If you've got a view, get involved. We've got local elections on the 4th of May. Irrespective of whichever party you're supporting, go and knock on the door, go and deliver a leaflet, go and actually listen to what the candidates have got to say, attend their hustings, have a view, because the biggest frustration I have as an elected representative is sometimes the level of engagement. While I will always have my personal view, I am actually meant to get a better informed judgment based on the more people I speak to. So while we represent 106,000 people in South West Hertfordshire, we do 10,000 pieces of casework a year. Not everyone communicates with me as their member of parliament. We do have our regulars, as you're well aware, Ollie. But there are a significant minority of the population that I've still yet to get their views on what they think is important.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go on to some quick fire questions now, just to learn a bit more about you. A bit of a range here, so take your time for some of them if you need to. So, chocolate or sweets? Which one's your favourite?
Oh, God, Ollie, that's a trick question, because I've got a massive sweet tooth.
I do.
I'm going to plead the fifth on this one, because if you said to me I could only have one or the other, I wouldn't know which way to go.
Okay. So what's your favourite chocolate bar?
Dairy milk. So
Okay.
I've got quite a basic palate on chocolate, but
Okay.
it's reminds me of my childhood type thing.
Okay. Staycation or abroad?
I've not travelled much, and actually, the beauty of being brought up in the United Kingdom is that actually we now live in a global world. So the ability to go abroad and see different cultures and different places. I have done both.
Yep.
But my immediate preference would probably be abroad, just to experience a whole different culture and temperature, climate, and things like that.
Particular favourite destination you've been to? One that stands out?
I did do a delegation to America.
Okay.
And the reason why I've probably selected that is America's huge.
Yeah.
So I describe it as actually a continent, but a country. So you could you could do everything from skiing all the way down to a beach holiday without having to leave the borders of America. And I'm sure there's a high percentage of Americans that don't actually have passport because they don't really need to.
Yeah. Scone or scone?
Scone.
And do you have jam or cream first?
I have cream first because the jam will just go everywhere.
Okay, that's a fair shout. Another food question, so you can tell that I wrote these questions just before lunch. If you're having a roast dinner, what would be your favourite meat to have?
I shouldn't really say this as a Hindu, but beef.
Okay. And final question, favourite Prime Minister of all time?
I'm going to say Winston Churchill.
Okay.
You're aware that I still walk around with a pin of the Ukrainian flag and the British flag on my suit jackets, and hopefully people see that if they do look at Parliament TV. The reason I say Winston Churchill is that I was brought up learning about the Second World War and Nazi Germany, and he was the wartime Prime Minister that ensured that we had peace in our life at the time and defeated the Nazis. I still pinch myself, and I'm still actually quite sad that there is a significant war in mainland Europe in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I didn't think that would ever happen, and unfortunately the reality is that a lot of innocent people are still continuing to die in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, I think that's enough grilling from me for now. I've got another month to think of some more. If you as a listener have any questions, then please do let us know, or any suggestions for the podcast moving forward. Gagan, thanks very much for joining me. Thank you for listening, and look forward to seeing you next month.
Thanks, Ollie. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thanks very much.